let's get spraying. Try and guess the color. You might be shocked. I may have gone too far this time, but she is bright green. This LQ9 better run good because it's bright. We did get our motor or engine mounts bolted on there. We'll start untaping this thing, and we're gonna the balancer is gonna go black. I'll mask up the engine itself and just paint the balancer because I don't want to remove it. But yeah, it actually looks good. I think once I get some other colors on there, get it untaped, get our valve covers swapped out. I'm not sure what I'm going to use. The ones that came off this engine were extremely clean, so we're either gonna just maybe hit them with the stainless paint, put them back on, or we may use those Holley. I just don't know if orange is going to go good with green. We'll have to see. The black doesn't look bad on there, so I think the balancer black will definitely help. And of course it's going to have a black Trailblazer SS intake on it. So it's still drying. We're going to get this thing installed on the startup stand and we'll get it fired up. Probably going to be next video. At this point we'll do a complete hookup of the Holley Terminator X Max and give this thing its first fire. Got our 6-liter all mounted up on the run stand here and started plumbing some stuff up. Got the intake installed, cleaned, installed. These things clean up really nice when you pressure wash them and scrub them down just a little bit. Of course, then you got to dry them off, but that was a used Trailblazer SS intake. It looks brand new. So anyway, we have it on the stand. We have our Holley Terminator X here. We're getting ready to hook up. Obviously this is a loud looking engine. It should be loud too. It's got that Texas Speed MS4 Magic Stick 4 cam in it. Let me know what you guys think about these valve covers. Do the orange and green go good together? Most people are not gonna like that green. I know that. I like green and it's something different. I've never painted an engine anything than black, red, or orange. So something different. The orange valve covers, these are the Holley valve covers. They're really nice pieces. Or do you just want to see some stock valve covers? We clean these up pretty good. I can scrub them down and mist that stainless paint on them and they will look absolutely brand new. But for right now, and trying to get this thing actually running, we're going to pull the Holleys back off because I don't have valve cover gaskets. The gaskets that were on these stock ones are still good, and we can literally grab a pair of these coil packs that I have sitting here and drop them right on these factory valve covers. We'll run our bolts in, plug into it, put our plug wires on, and we're done. It's ready to start as far as that goes. We got our valve covers and coil packs on. That's going to be good enough for now. So we're going to go ahead and start wiring this Holley Terminator X Max system up. And the very first thing we're going to do is our harness for our fuel injectors. Right there, injectors. Everything's labeled, so Holley makes it really easy for you. So we're going to lay that down there, and we're going to grab, there's 2 branches here. We're going to put one branch to that side, one branch to this side, and see if we got it right. Again, they're all labeled. So this is injector 2, so we got it wrong. So we'll swap that. It's going to go like that. Simply just plug them in, push down. You can hear it click. There is a safety. We don't really need to set that because it's not a priority. Injector 3. And of course it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You know, you can take care of the rest. We'll move this over out of the way after we get it all plugged in, and we will be all plugged in back to this main plug that we can plug into the main harness. With that laid in there nice and neat, you can kind of see how I did it. I actually ran it on the intake side of the fuel rail and then ran the wires out, and it makes for a nice clean look. So now onto our main harness, and it's a big intimidating mess. Don't get intimidated at all. It's actually extremely easy. Like I said, everything's labeled. We'll go over everything as we go, but it's very easy. You could never worked with a wiring harness before in your life and figure this out just because everything's labeled. I guess you have to have some common sense as far as engines go, but let's get it unraveled and we'll start laying it out. We did put our O2 sensor in. Holley gives you a bung to weld into your exhaust system. These headers are my stand headers, and they already have a O2 bung welded into them. So we have that plugged in. They also give you a little pigtail adapter to go to the main harness, and I just coil everything up there. So onto this. Got this unraveled, and as you can see, it's pretty long. It's probably 10 feet or so long, and that's so when you're wiring this in your car or wherever you're putting whatever you're putting it in, you can route it. And here's the ends that go to the Holley control unit, and typically you're going to mount them inside the car, so you need a little bit of length. But let's go ahead and lay this thing down. Like I said, it's intimidating, but just start making a couple connections and you'll see how easy it is. Very first connections we're going to do is here at the Holley control unit. Again, you can't get these wrong because they only plug in one way. So there's our first two connections, and it connects our main harness right to our Terminator X control box. We already had that mounted, and we have our handheld. That's very easy too. I think I got slightly coiled back up. So this will actually go right here to the can. What's labeled can, so that'll plug in right there, and once we fire this thing up, that will light up and we can make all of our selections right there. And we can do enough on this to actually get it up and running pretty decent. And then it's self-learning. You can go in with your laptop and adjust stuff if need be. It's definitely capable of getting it up and running without any issue. So we got that plugged in. I just took my coil and ran it through there. These wires will hook up in a minute. There's a relay, doesn't need to be grounded, so we're just going to let it sit there. And this is actually a fuse. So that's all we're going to hook up on this side until we hook these up. We'll follow our main harness up. We got some wires here we have to hook up, but then here is all of our sensor wires for our engine itself. So again, don't be intimidated, just start laying this stuff out. This is going to be our wideband O2 plug, and that's going to come down and plug into this sub harness or this adapter harness down here. Let me get this out of the way. So we just plug that in, and again, that plugs into the little adapter harness and goes right to your O2 sensor. So we're just going to leave that be right there. This is a nice heavy shielding, so we're good with that. The rest of this stuff right here is our injector plug. Again, every single thing is labeled. So our injector plug will obviously plug into our injection sub harness. And it's much easier to do this with two hands. But we'll plug that in. We got a couple ground wires right here. Connect to cylinder head only. So do that. There's two of these. There's one for the left side, one for the right side. And we're going to actually hook them right there. There's bolt holes right on the back. We'll bolt them right, make sure they're grounded good to the cylinder head. Like I said, there's one left, there's one right, and we'll just keep going around. The rest of our harness comes right around this way, and then we still have a couple plugs on this side. That plugged in, and a little bit more of this routed around. This wire here with the heat tape on it is going to go to your crank sensor. And the crank sensor is right in behind the starter, so it's actually really easy to get to because we're not in the vehicle. So we'll move this around and we'll plug that right in. Here we go, clipped in. We'll make sure this stays out of our heat range with our headers. So that's plugged in. Again, we're going to keep working our way right around. Here is ignition even. So 2, 4, 6, 8. Right side bank. We'll get that plugged right in. You can hear all these click as they go in. We'll leave this harness kind of right there nestled in that place. This is the map sensor. Our map on this intake is in the front. If it was a normal truck like LQ4 truck or LM7, whatever the 5.3s are, it would be back here. So they give you enough lead to go wherever you want. We are running LS3 style, so we have a little adapter here. This will plug right in here. Plug in, snap, good to go there. We'll kind of route that back out of the way. So coils are plugged in, map sensor plugged in, crank sensors plugged in. We're moving right along here. What's this? So this is the cam sensor. Probably have to pull this harness this way a little bit. What's this? Knock sensors, okay. Our knock sensors are on this wire here. Get it out of there. So we'll plug that in right here. Knock sensors are plugged in. We'll route them in a minute. Here's our cylinder head connection again. So we'll keep working these wires down as we go and pulling them to where we need it. So we'll run that. We have a bolt here. We'll run that into there. Let's keep going on this though. Oil pressure. This harness is being a little stubborn on this. So oil pressure plugs in. Oil pressure sensor is right on the back here. Where is our cam sensor? Is right here. Cam sensor on these is up top. This is a 24 tooth motor. If it was a 58 tooth, it would be up front and your harness would be different. This one plugs in right here. So this side of the engine is now complete, finished. This side we still need to work on, but it's kind of the mirror image of the other side until we get to the throttle body. So let's find our, we'll pull that up a little bit. Here is going to be our ignition odd. So this is driver side ignition. Coil pack sub harness plug. Again, our ground wire goes down there. Injectors are already plugged in. This we're not even going to use. It was just on the intake, so I left it there. This is the evap sensor. Holley doesn't worry about that, and we're not going to worry about it. We're just leaving it on here to seal that plug off. So keep going around. Here is the intake air. We have another harness because this is drive-by wire we need to hook up. Let's see what we got here. Coolant temp sensor is right here. Plugged in, snapped, good to go. I think that's it. So the rest of these plugs are, we're either not going to use them. So this is manifold air temp sensor. We do have one now. We didn't before when we ran this. Not this setup, but on this stand. We have one, so we'll hook that up and just kind of let it sit up here. So that is absolutely all the connections we do on the engine itself, except for the throttle body. And like I said, there's a sub harness. We'll get to that in a second. So now we're going to switch over to our main power supply harness. It comes coiled up. We uncoiled it just enough. We'll plug it in right here at the port. And this will, I always kind of leave this dangle there on that handle, and this goes directly to the battery itself. So big hot, big ground, directly to your battery, no place else. If you have your battery in the trunk, you need to lengthen these wires if you don't have enough on this coil, which they give you plenty, but you can shorten this if you need be. You can lengthen it, but directly to your battery. And while we're right here on the battery side, there is two plugs here with caps on them. You're not going to use these. We're just going to call these accessories. So this is the input output, and we're not going to use these, especially with this setup on the run stand. No need to mess with them. Here's the wires we have uncoiled. So this red wire says fuse on it, and this goes right to your battery. That's what actually powers this fuse we were talking about earlier up here. So that's a fusible link that goes right to your battery. This green wire is the fuel pump feed. Here's your fuel pump relay up here also. You can actually run, if it's less than I think 15 amp, you can run your fuel pump right off this lead. Lengthen it, shorten it, whatever you need to do. Terminator X Max that has the capability of doing drive-by-wire has another plug right here, which this plugs into there. This plugs into your throttle body, and this will plug in your pedal. The red wire is a brake input. So let me go ahead and snap these in, and I'll show you a little bit from there. We have that all hooked up, so we have throttle body control, or we will have as soon as we get the tuning in. So it's a very simple plug-in. So right here is your main plug for your drive-by wire. It comes out, we have that coiled up. It comes over this other plug. It's the larger of the two. Comes over and plugs right into the side of your throttle body. Very simple. And then there's a Y off of it. The smaller of the two wires comes over and plugs into your pedal. We have our pedal actually mounted upside down, but it's just kind of easier on our stand. So once we have tuning, this will control our throttle body with wire or cableless with wire. So this empty port here is for the transmission control. Obviously we don't have transmission hooked up, so for right now we're going to leave that empty. And I guess the kind of nice thing about this is if you decide later on you don't want to go drive-by wire and you want to do drive-by cable for whatever reason, I don't know why you would, but for whatever reason, you can unhook this. And then they do give you in the main harness these two wires. There's throttle position sensor and your idle air control motor are still here. So this is what you'll need to power your, or not power, but if you're doing a cable driven operated throttle body, these are the two wires that you're going to need to plug in to your sensors, so your idle air control motor and your throttle position sensor. So you still have the capability of going backward, I guess. So the Terminator X Max, this one will control transmission. It also will control throttle body control, but you don't have to use it for that. You can go the other way. All right, so that is, we actually completed all the wiring. So let me just run you through the couple things we did hook up. The plugs, I showed you how to plug every one of the plugs in except for the transmission control, and it's going to be simple too. But in short, this hot wire here it says fused or fuse on it. This is going to run down. This is actually what powers this fuse right here in the harness. But this comes down and we just have it routed out of the way, but this goes directly to the battery. So that's a constant hot. Back here we have all this coiled up. The blue one we're not going to worry about right now for this application. The green one here says fuel pump on it. This will actually power your fuel pump. So we will hook that up when we hook our fuel system up. The main hot wire out of the box that comes down, it's got a main red and a main black. So we hook them up directly to the battery, and that's the ones that says hook only to the battery. So we got them ground hot. So the fuse wire we were just talking about, that's where that hooks up onto the battery. This ground wire hooks up to the ground side. The black wire comes out of the harness up here, no big deal. And then the only other wire is a switched source. So this one does not go right to the battery. This is actually what turns the whole system on and off. So we have some toggle switches up here on our stand, and it just comes around and we hook that in. So when we throw that switch, it throws power. Everything else is hooked up right to the battery. So let's go ahead and flick it on. So this is what we have to arm. So we flick that on. You can hear stuff going on. The screen lights up. It's booting up now. It's already booted up. We missed it. So here's the LED lights. This tells you if anything's going on. So with this powered up, the only other thing we got to do is actually go through and build a tune for this engine. But we're going to put that in a separate video. Like I think I'm going to title this just wiring. So start up, tuning is going to be a separate video because it just gets too long. And if you're tuning in to see the first fire, you don't want to sit through all of the wiring. So that is all the wiring connections that needed to be done to power this on kind of a bench test or stand test to make this engine run. We still have to put spark plugs in and hook up our wires, but I did want to prime the engine. We have our starter hooked up. I guess I didn't really mention that. That's not part of the Holley, but you do need to run a trigger wire down to your starter and of course hook your hot from the battery to the starter to make it work. And this looks a little bit like a rat's nest just because we're not cutting, we're not shortening anything because this is temporary on the stand. This system will be put into a vehicle. We just want to fire this engine, hear it run, test everything out, and make a video on it. There you are. Thanks for stopping by. Have a good day and tune in for the next video, and we will actually be building a tune and firing this for the first time.